I believe he's the most dominant wrestler grappling in the UFC today. Potentially even of all time. Maybe Khabib a little bit more just on terms of who he's beaten and how he's beaten him, but it's very, very close.
Some man they wanna chat shit till I knock 'em ain't like I'm Jack Shaw. Roll hat, roll stack, my flow sharp like a hacksaw.
Alright guys, we're back. Episode 19 of the Ten10 podcast. On my Todd today. The old man is sorting some medical things. Nothing to worry about, just some standard stuff. No guest today. It's been a busy week/weekend. Lots going on. We had the boys fight on the weekend. I done a little bit of work for TNT, so we haven't had time to get anything filmed with a guest. It's Monday today, so we're going to get this out hopefully by the end of the week. Today we're going to review UFC 319. You may or may not have seen, I did a bit of work for TNT Sports with Nick Peet and Adam Cattrell last week. Done it last week. It came out this week. If you haven't seen it yet and you want to see it, I'll put a link in the comments or the description. Sorry, it's on the TNT Sport or TNT on UFC new YouTube channel. Basically, it's a fight week preview, and I thought made a load of notes. Some of them we didn't get through in the show because it was obviously for a set time limit. So I thought, why not come on here and talk some rubbish and see if I'm right or wrong come Sunday morning about the UFC. First though, we had a weekend in Marbella. Brett Johns Scott Pedersen fought over on WOW FC. And before we even get into the fight, what an awesome setup, awesome show WOW FC is. The face of it is obviously Ilia Topuria. He's co-owner of the show. But all the guys here that work for the show, real professional outfit. You know, on a part, to be honest, with the UFC behind the scenes, can't do enough for you. Everything's very organised. Matchmakers are great. The bosses were great. The helpers, the staff, couldn't do enough for you. And if you haven't already seen, check out the venue on my Instagram. It was insane. It was almost like, the only way to describe it is to kind of imagine the Motorpoint Arena in Cardiff, but imagine it outdoors and imagine it in the middle of a quarry in Spain. That's where it was. It was an outdoor venue on a massive platform. It was unbelievable setup. It was crazy. You know, to corner in somewhere like that, but even for the boys, they're fighting in a once in a lifetime sort of venue, unless obviously they go back end of the year. But it was crazy good setup. Good weekend. In terms of results, we start off. We had Scott Pedersen for a tough Peruvian guy on short notice. The guy took it on a couple of days' notice. Real good Thai background, explosive puncher. Lost a close decision. Credit to his opponent, done a real good job. But Scotty started well. You know, he's a little bit, you won't mind me saying, he's a little bit slow out the gate, a little bit, not hesitant, but didn't get going straight away. In the first round of his wrestling, like we know he can. But towards the end of the first round, he started finding his range. He was landing some good shots. I thought he probably even nicked it, to be honest, on damage. The guy kind of was throwing shots. Nothing was really landing. Scott was doing a real job of keeping his guard tight, moving his head. Started to let his hands go then towards the end of the first. So yeah, I thought he nicked the first round. Going into the second then, much of the same with the striking, and then got clipped with a massive shot. Fair play to his opponent. I think it was a right up, left up, right up combo, and the very last right hand clipped Scott and put him down pretty bad. To be honest, I seen the clip online, doesn't do it justice. It was a massive shot and would have put most people away. I mean, I even thought in a corner this could be the end, but fair play to Scott, showed that Viking spirit in him, that toughness, recovered, came back into it a little bit toward the end of the second round, but, you know, didn't really, the damage was kind of done where he couldn't really win that round back. Lost the third round, but again, really close round. Just, I think the shot did take it out of him a little bit. He in between rounds, he seemed a little bit, not dazed, but a little bit stunned. He seemed a little bit, you know, how you would expect someone to see after taking a massive shot like that. But, you know, credit to his opponent. And, you know, Scott is truly one of the hardest workers in the gym, one of the most talented fighters I've ever sparred and worked with. And, you know, it's one of them fights. He'll be back. He's young. He's hungry. No doubt at all. The promotion are very keen on him. I'd be very surprised they don't have him back towards the end of the year. you know, in my eyes, he's still very capable of fighting at the top level. It's just a case of doing in the cage what he does in the gym. You know, his striking's elite, his wrestling's elite, his grappling's very, very elite as well. It's just a case of putting it together. But, you know, hard lines to him. He will be back. He'll make the adjustments like we know he can. And I look forward to his next one. And then in the main event, the Welsh GOAT, the one and only Brett Johns. Do you know what? I'm going to have to Google. I'm going to have to look at the name of the finish. I don't even know what the move is called. I know the move, but, you know, Brett's had 13, 14 months off, I think, since his last PFL fight. Where are we to? Let's get it up. Hopefully, I don't know if we can put the video up, actually. We might get copyrighted, but 13, 14 months off since his last PFL fight. You know, didn't go his way in the PFL, the last 2 fights, fought 2 real world-class guys. And in there again now, main event, against a tough Georgian kid, 13-5, I think he's got 10 knockouts. Dangerous lad, you know, can wrestle, can obviously strike, big power in his hands. And then Brett just does what Brett does, mauls him to the fence, takes him down, and then out of nowhere, just absolutely latches in. One of the best finishes. I mean, just to put it into perspective, the angle of the... so in the corner, we had me, my old man, and Jack Evans. Here we go. I'm just getting the name of the finish up here. What's it called? A Sulev stretch, I believe it's called. We've seen Zabit do it. We've seen a couple of guys in UFC do it. But yeah, so as it goes, we're in the corner, and you got me in the middle, Jack Evans to my right, my old man to my left. And where me and Jack are sat, we're looking right at Brett, but the referee's kind of in our way. So Brett takes his back and goes for this stretch out submission. And I watched the guy's last fight, and he got caught in it and didn't tap. I thought, you know, he looked very flexible. So when Brett locked it in, I thought, he's not going to get this. He's just going to use it to sort of maintain the back position. Because one of the things we noticed in the build-up to the fight was the guy he fought didn't do a great job of getting up when he was taken down. He's quite flat on his back. But when he does try to explode up, he does expose the back. He does the standard wrestler, go to the hands and knees, crawl to the cage, exposes the back. So we said to Brett, look, if he does that, jump the back take. So when he went for the stretch, I remember thinking, oh, he'll just use this to maintain position. And so me and Jack are looking, expecting him to take the back. And my old man's to my left, he must have been looking at the big screen, and he jumps up and he's like, yes. I turn and look, I was like, what? And he's like, he's tapped. So, yeah, we got excited, and obviously over the moon for Brett. He needed that win. Showed his level, because as good as the kid is, people forget that Brett is world class. You know, for me, even at featherweight, top 20 in the world, I don't care what promotion. I know that's an outlandish statement to make, but I generally believe at bantamweight or featherweight, he's capable of beating some of the best guys in the world. And you know, the promotion were over the moon. Obviously, he's the biggest fighter, the best fighter to probably ever fight on that promotion, and then to pull off a win like that was crazy. Nice bonus for him as well. He had a finish of the night bonus, and it's looking like they're going to have him back for the title, hopefully. Nothing's set in stone. I know that's what Brett wants to do. It's just a case of logistics now, when they can line it up, or whether something bigger comes up. You know, a finish like that opens a lot of eyes, and wouldn't be surprised to see a big promotion come knocking. Even not that, well, we're not a big promotion, mate. I think they will go on to be very, very big. The setup, the investment they've obviously put into the company this early doors is crazy. You know, if any young fighters out there get offered a fight on, well, I highly suggest and recommend you take it, because it's a great, great setup, great, great platform. So yeah, buzzing for Brett. Did the business. We had quite the after party afterwards. It was a rough day travelling home yesterday, I'll be honest with you. We've had better days on the plane, but we won't remember the hangover in 10 years. We'll remember the party. So yeah, big shout out to the boys, 2 Welsh legends, putting it on the line, and couldn't be proud of them. Win, lose or draw, absolute pleasure to follow them into the cage, to follow them into battle, and great experience for me. And probably my first sort of big show as a coach. My first sort of big high level, high risk fight, so good experience for myself as well. Suppose another day at the office for the old man, but he's seen it that many times now before. All right, we move on. UFC 319 this weekend. Massive card for me. Biggest card I think they've had in a long time. Stacked top to bottom. The prelims are stacked. We're just going to break on the main card today. The prelims, or you've got guys like, I think you got Dricus close fighting Barboza. Bobby Green is fighting. Chase Hooper is fighting. Is Chase Hooper fighting Bobby Green? I don't know. I have to double check. But there's some big names on the prelims as well that I'm looking forward to watching. But obviously the big one is the main event. You got Khamzat Chimaev, the ranked number 3 middleweight, taking on the champ DDP. Couple of things to consider going into this fight. You know, the first thing and the most obvious thing, we talked about this on the TNT show, is there's only one real chink in the armour of Khamzat Chimaev, and that is the fact that the 2 fights that he's had taken in the 3rd round, your Gilbert Burns, your Kamaru Usman, he has looked a little bit tired. Not totally out on his feet by any means. Not gassed out. People like to see gasses. I wouldn't say gassed out by any means. But he did start slow. And this is obviously a 5-round fight. And you're fighting a guy in DDP who we've seen in the last 2-3 fights. The 2 against Strickland, the 1 against Izzy especially, gets stronger as the fight goes on. You know, it's a case of, is it going to be Khamzat in 2 rounds or is it going to be DDP over 5? Can DDP weather the early storm and come on strong? But obviously, someone said to me in the gym yesterday, Jamie Lowe, and it was bang on. It's not just an early storm from Khamzat. It's like trying to ride a tsunami when you're in a kayak. Not many people can survive it, you know, but DDP is championship material. You know, he's massive for the weight class. Absolutely massive. He walks around 230 pounds, something like that out of camp. Massive punching power. Like we said, he's done multiple 5-round fights before. 2 5-rounders against Strickland that went a decision. Finished in the 4th or 5th round against Izzy. So again, and he's very, very, very unorthodox. And he's been saying this week that he almost does it on purpose because he doesn't like people to be able to mimic his style. You know, he's got a wild style of striking. His wrestling is scrappy. His grappling is very scrappy. His striking is very scrappy, but it is effective. Every fight he's had in the UFC, you know, he's made it work. Even fights where he's looked like he's going to lose, like Derek Brunson, Darren Till. Even the Stylebender fight wasn't going all his own way, and he just finds a way to win. However, what I will say is we have yet to see him have his defensive grappling tested. Whenever we've seen sort of DDP exchange on the ground, he's always been the one pushing the takedown. He's always been the one, you know, advancing aggressively with grappling rather than defending. Now, if there's ever a guy that's going to test your defensive grappling and wrestling, it's going to be Khamzat. Again, I mentioned this on the TNT show. I believe he's the most dominant wrestler grappling in the UFC today. Potentially even of all time. Maybe Khabib a little bit more just on terms of who he's beaten and how he's beaten him. But it's very, very close. You know, he's the most dangerous, along with Tom Aspinall, the most dangerous 1-round fighter in the sport. You know, and he also possesses power. We all talk about DDB's punching power, but we've seen Khamzat knock guys out on the feet. He's got a wrestling and submission prowess where if you give him half a submission opportunity, he is going to take it. It's, you know, there's a couple more things I've got written by you to consider. In terms of more of the detailed things, like for me, I was watching some tape on DDP, and also he's a very big puncher, but he has a lot of holes in his strike and defense as well. He is there to be clipped. You know, he does take shots. And also a lot of his attacking game, a lot of DDP's attacking offense is a kick. You know, he kicks high left, switch left kick to the head, switch left kick to the body. He likes to use a lot of kicks. I'll be interested to see if he uses that approach against Khamzat, because of the threat of the takedown. Obviously, when you're fighting a guy like that, you risk throwing those high-end body kicks. You risk that someone like Khamzat is going to shoot in on your legs or catch a leg and take you down. So that's something I'm really interested to see. Will he keep his striking offense more hand-based? Or will he look to just do what he does anyway? Like we've yet to see him fight this style of fight, and maybe the kicking game will work, but it's very, very difficult, like I said, to throw that many kicks against someone who's constantly shooting for your legs. You know, another one I got here as well is what we haven't seen yet is we haven't seen Khamzat fight under the new rule set. And what I mean by that is the new rule set with the 12 to 6 elbows, the new rule set with a grounded opponent where before, Khamzat likes the waist right position, so he'll get someone down, he'll grapple them around the waist. Before, if you had both hands on the mat, you was a grounded opponent. That prevents knees to the face, kicks to the face. Now the rule has changed. So now you need to have one knee down or one elbow down. So if he gets that waist right position, indeed if he's posting up, I would expect to see him utilise the fact that he can sort of let his knees go. And he'll just make it a little bit easier for him, in terms of controlling the position. Some other things on Khamzat we've got is takedown timing. DDP, when he comes forward, he doesn't throw a lot of feints. If you watch his fight footage, he's very much just attack. It works, but he doesn't set a lot of things up. You watch against Izzy, he's very in and out. He explodes in. He does like this weird blitz, which is effective for him. But, if you just blitz in and don't feint your way in against someone like Khamzat Chimaev, you are going to get taken down. His timing is so good. His double leg is so good that if DDP blitzes and is not set up correctly, he will just go underneath him. And what Khamzat is very good at doing, he's very good at securing the takedown and keeping people down. Like what we see in the UFC a lot is wrestlers get a takedown, someone gets back up. Khamzat is very good at taking you down and controlling you on the floor. He changes wrestling together very well. And I think that's what ends up getting him the submissions the way he does, because people get so desperate they can't get up. They just explode and give up their neck, give up their back. And that's where we've seen him do his most damage. What I will say is as well, we talked about Khamzat being explosive early on and just pressing for the finish. Watch the Whittaker fight back, and look, obviously it was a round one finish, but he looked very composed on top of Whittaker. He took his time and he broke him down with some shots, rode the back, rode to the mount, half guard, transferred through position, but didn't rush. Just chipped away, and then when that neck presented itself, or the jaw in this case, he took it. But again, DDP's a different type of fighter. We've seen him also blow through Whittaker and the likes of those guys. But good thing with DDP has got in this fight is he's not afraid to throw caution to the wind. And I think if you fight Khamzat in a reserved manner, it's always going to benefit him in terms of he can control the pace, control how sort of explosive the fight is, and control the fact that he can, control it so that his cardio is not going to be worn on too much. DDP will just throw caution to the wind. He will just create a car crash. And as good as Khamzat is, there's no way you don't get tired from constantly being in a tumble dryer style exchange like you would with DDP. He's well drilled as well, DDP. He constantly looks to score damage, and when he is scoring damage, he sticks to his game plan very well. Like you've seen it against Izzy. He wasn't having so much success early on, but he didn't really switch his game plan up. He kept attacking the legs, attacking the body, and it paid off eventually. And he is like a shark. When he smells blood in the water, he pounces. Very much like Khamzat. I think that's where they're quite similar. Both of them are very good at smelling blood in the water and just attacking the finish, going for it, and just trying to get the other guy out there, not looking to cruise with decision. Even against Strickland, when DDP did go the 5 rounds, you could see he was constantly pressing, broke his nose later on, wanted the finish, just Strickland toughed it out. So for me, keys to victory for Khamzat. He's got to stay on the front foot. He's got to be fast but methodical. If it's not broke, don't fix it. If you can take him down and submit him straight away, then he needs to do that. And he needs to also realise that if he does get tired, utilise that boxing. Because he's a good boxer. He's very crisp. DDP's quite wild. He's there to be it. Just to give himself a chance to recover. For DDP, like we said, weather the early storm. He definitely needs to feint a little bit. He can't just blitz in. He needs to dictate the pace of the fight and make it messy. If he makes this a clean fight, a technical fight, it's going to only benefit Khamzat. So, real good fight, guys. Real barn burner. A real toss him up fight. It'll be either Khamzat early, it'll be DDP late. For me, I've seen some of Khamzat's training vlogs. He's looking like a machine. He's working at the training lab with Sam Calavita. I think he will be a lot fitter for this fight, and I just feel like he's going to do it. I think he's going to go out there, get a victory early, 1 or 2 rounds, and he's just going to become the biggest star in the UFC. He's talking about going down to fight for the belt. He's talking about going up to fight for the belt. So I'd be really interested to see what happens if he does do that. But that's not a confident pick. You know, that's a pick that I think will happen, but I would not be surprised at all because we keep doubting Dricus, and every time he proves us wrong. Quick drink break. Okay, we move on to the co-main. Aaron Pico, UFC newbie, versus Lerone Murphy. Lerone Murphy, you know, everyone should know about him by now. He can do it all, really. World-class striker, grappler, wrestler. Got a real good coaching team. We've had Carl on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, who has got a different sort of approach, I think, to a lot of coaches. He comes from a football background, so he's very well drilled in his approach to coaching. He treats it like, you know, I think he almost treats it like he's coaching against another team rather than he's coaching this guy to beat this guy. He breaks everything down. You got your route A's, your route B's, your route C's, what your do's and don'ts. And I think that's why Lerone has had so much success, because what helps when you've got a world-class coaching team is that you've got a real good fighter that will follow the game plan. And you've only got to watch his last fight against Josh Emmett to see how good he is at that. You know, he followed the game plan to a T, especially from when we spoke with Carl. I think they had it pretty much bang on. And what Lerone has got going for him as well is that everyone he's fought in like his last 4 or 5 fights is world class. You know, Dan Ige, Barboza, Josh Emmett. He's been in there with the best in that division. Now you flip the coin, Aaron Pico got all the accolades in the world. Under 17s world wrestling champion, Golden Glove boxer. You know, he signed for Bellator and /PFL early when he was young in his pro career. He had a Nike shoe deal. He was sponsored by Gatorade, Nike. At all these, he was like the American hero. He was going to be the next American dream. Rushed him a little bit, I think, early doors. He picked up a couple of losses, but has moved to the Jackson Wink Academy and has really started to gel it together. Now, every punching power, elite level wrestling can stop the fight anyway. But what he hasn't got that Lerone has got, and that is that experience against that world-class opposition. You know, is no knock on Bellator or the PFL, but, you know, if you go and look at Pico's record, there's no one on there on the level of a Dan Ige, on the level of a Barboza, on the level of a Josh Emmett, like you've got with Lerone. Yes, he's got all the accolades, yes, he's got all the skills, but he hasn't had that world-class championship opposition yet. So that for me is the real separating factor. You know, I watched Pico's last fight. He looked very good. He does a real good job of wrestling, but then Lerone does a real good job of getting up. Pico's a real powerful striker, but in terms of striking power, is there anyone in the division other than Topuria before he left? It's harder than Josh Emmett. And Lerone has just navigated that for 5 rounds without really taking any damage. So, you know, it all comes down for me. Does Pico's attributes and skills translate to the UFC? Like we said, he hasn't been tested yet. Lerone's been in there with division's best. He's taken the hard road, and he's proven he's belong amongst the top. And not to say Pico couldn't do the same, but we haven't seen it yet, and we've got to see that Saturday. And for me, it could be a number 1 contender fight, because Movsar Evloev was meant to fight Pico, and I can guarantee you if he beat Pico, he would be next in line for the title, which would also lead to believe if Pico beat him, he would be next in line for the title. So I don't see how a win year for Lerone doesn't put him in that conversation. In terms of how I see the fight going, I don't think we'll see much wrestling. I think if we do see a takedown from Pico, I think Lerone will get back up to his feet pretty easily. I think it'll mainly be a striking battle. I just think Lerone's that good at following the game plan, striking and moving, not putting himself in danger. And he's tough. You know, we've seen Dan Ige hurt him. We've seen Barboza hurt him. And we've seen him weather the storm and still come through and still follow the game plan. So I think we'll probably see, for me, a Lerone Murphy unanimous decision, whatever, whether that be 3 rounds to 0, whether that be 2 rounds to 1. As long as he can avoid the big shots of Pico, avoid getting pinned on the floor for extended periods of time, I think we see Lerone get quite a comfortable unanimous victory. Sorry about the drink breaks. I've just been training. My mouth is very dry. All right, we're moving on. Another interesting matchup. We got Jeff Neal versus Carlos Pratas. A striking fan's dream, this one, guys. Not going to see a lot of grappling, if we be honest. You've got Jeff Neal, look at his resume. Neil Magny, Mike Perry, Ian Gary, Rafael Dos Anjos. Real good boxing style, real heavy puncher. Fought a who's who, and also, despite his last two losses, they've been against top-level competition in Shavkat Rakhmonov and Ian Gary, and I'll probably give both of those guys their toughest fight to date, apart from when they fought each other. He got finished by Shavkat, but it was a real back-and-forth scrap. He made it messy, he landed some good shots, he had his moments. The Ian Gary fight wasn't such a barn burner, but it was close. It was a split decision. And it's a loss that's aged really well, because you look at Ian Gary now, he's pretty much at the top of the division, again, on the verge of a title shot. So, one of them, Jeff Neal, I think when he turns up and he's on his game, he's very, very much one of the best in the division, but he is in against a real good striker here. Carlos Pratas, elite Muay Thai background. We've seen that in his first, he's either 4 or 5-1, I think, in the UFC. All knockouts, absolutely starching up guys like Neil Magny, which is hard to do. When you see guys like Ian Gary taking Magny the distance, Magny's still doing the thing. He's still getting wins. He's been around a long time, but he's not down and out by any means. And Pratt has put him out of there bad. The guy's got massive power, can turn the lights off at any time, and he's active. He is very active. He's had 5 fights in the last 18 months, despite coming off the loss to Ian Gary. Within 18 months, he's gone from being a newbie in the UFC to fighting a guy in Gary who was, 2 fights ago on the verge of a title shot. So, look, it's one of those. I don't expect anything other than them to meet in the middle. I do think Pratas edges it in terms of striking skill. He's got great shot selection. He probably edges it in power a little bit. And he's very good at leading the dance. So if I was Jeff Neal, I'd be thinking, as much as we want to see a striking battle, mix it up a little bit. I'm not saying go out there and wrestle, but put him on the cage, weight him down. Just give him something to think about so that he's not just leading the dance. Take a page out of Ian Gary's book. Ian Gary fought Pratas the perfect way. Didn't wrestle him as such, but just let him know that those takedowns were there. Attack the legs well. And an interesting one in this match is southpaw versus southpaw. And one of Jeff Neal's best weapons from his southpaw stance is that rear leg, roundhouse kick to the body, to the head, which kind of is neutralised a little bit. Now he's fighting another southpaw. So I expect to see battle of calf kicks, battle of the heavy hands. If Jeff Neal doesn't mix it up, I do think we'll see a Pratas finish. I think we'll see him by TKO. I'm not saying it'll be early. I think it'll be late on. I do think he's that good. But obviously, look, we can't count Neal. He can catch him. But yeah, without sitting on the fence, I think we see Carlos get it done via KO. Late on, though, second or third round, I think you'll take a little bit of breaking down Jeff Neal. And there will be a respect factor because Neal possesses power as well. So Pratas is not just going to close the range, not just going to come in recklessly in case he gets clipped. And I think he's a good enough, elite level enough striker to know that. We move on. Another good fight, which this could be a main event fight on a fight night card. We've got Jared Cannonier, the Killer Gorilla. We got him fighting MVP. MVP is back up at middleweight. I believe he's ranked at, so if he wins this, I don't know if it's possible, but he will be ranked at 2 divisions, I think. Well, unless they say you can only be ranked at 1, but he should be ranked at 2 divisions. Look, Jared is a long-time top 5 fighter. He's fought the best of the best, but he's done 8 5-round main events in a row. So you've got to bear that in mind. This is a 3-round fight, and MVP is very difficult to beat over 3 rounds, unless you're going to make it messy, make it scrappy, get hold of him. But as the fights are going on, we've seen him do a very good job of doing that. And Jared is knocking on in age a little bit. I know he's not your average 40-year-old, but it is to be considered. When you're fighting a guy like MVP who's so slick, so unorthodox, he's fast. He's going to be giving away size, he's going to be giving away strength, but he's going to be benefiting in speed. he's coming off a real good win as well against Shara Bullet. You know, don't be wrong, Shara Bullet's style will obviously play into sort of our MVP fights, but at the same time, it was an elite level win. In terms of how the fight goes, if it's an out-and-out striking match, you know, there's not very many people on the roster going to beat MVP in a striking match. He's just not. He's just that good. He's that fast. He'll score his points and move. I think Jared has got to get in his face. He's got to use the size. He's got to use the strength. And he's got to make it messy. You know, we said about the last fight, take a page out of Ian Gary's book. Ian Gary wrestled him a little bit, put him on the cage, slowed him down. Although they did say that MVP was injured going into that fight. But yeah, if I'm Jared, I'm getting hold of him and trying to make it messy. Don't be wrong, let your shots go, but don't try and make this an out-and-out striking match because it will favour MVP. In terms of the matchup, it's the fast, powerful guy versus it's the strong, powerful guy versus the fast striker. I'd expect Jared to look for a couple of big bombs, get hold of him, and put him down. I was swaying towards a Jared decision. As the week is going on, I'm thinking more about this 3-round fight, not a 5-round fight. Jared is a little bit of a slow starter. So I wouldn't be surprised, to be honest, to see... my initial pick was going to be a Cannonier decision, but I think I am swaying towards... it could well be an MVP points win as well. What am I going to go for? Oh, I don't know. I'm going to go with the old dog. Just go out on a whim. It'll come back to bite me, I expect. But I'm going to go with Cannonier, UD, carries him down, roughs him up. And yeah, that will probably change by the time fight night comes. But there we go. This is how it goes, guys. I'm very indecisive on this one. But a good fight nonetheless. First fight then, opening the main card. Tim Elliott versus Kai Asakura. You know, Elliott, veteran of the sport, been in the UFC over 10 years, I believe. Been in there with the best on the roster. He's in a good run. He won 3 of his last 4, but he has been a little bit inactive. I don't think he's fought for 18 months. Very scrappy fighter, you know, makes it messy. Not pretty to watch, but does the job. You know, been in there with guys like Momakayev, some of the best on the roster, so he doesn't lack in that department. But I'm very high on Asakura. I think he had a tough gig coming into the UFC and fighting in Pantoja straight away. He's massive for the weight, massive power. I think he's 21 wins, 13 knockouts, which is pretty rare for a flyweight to sort of possess that sort of power. Was a bantamweight for a long time, mind you, so obviously got a factor in the weight cut as well. You know, he hasn't been in the UFC long. He's had one fight in the UFC, but he has fought some good guys outside in Rising. He's fought Cap, Yaraguchi. He's fought Archuleta, who was the former Bellator champion or Bellator title contender. So he's been there with some good guys. It's another case of the veteran versus the young up-and-coming guy. If I'm Elliott, I'm watching that Pantoja fight, and I'm thinking, this guy struggled a little bit, you know, when Pantoja wrestled him. Well, didn't struggle a little bit, he struggled a lot. Couldn't get Pantoja off him. However, no disrespect to Tim Elliott whatsoever, but Pantoja is the elite of the elite. You know, if he was a featherweight or a bantamweight, I think they'd be talking about him being top 5 pound for pound. In my opinion, he is at the minute. But I just think Asakura in this one's going to be too big and strong. I think he will get the shots off early. I think he will catch Elliott with one of those body kicks or head kicks, and I think he will put him away via KO. So that's our picks on the main card. We'll recap it. We'll go Asakura by KO. I think we're going to see a Cannonier decision. We're going to see a Pratt-ass KO. We're going to see a Lerone Murphy decision, and I think we're going to see a Khamzat submission. We'll recap, see if I go 0 for 5, 5 for 5 or whatever. We've got some questions as well, which I will pull up now. Because I'm on my own, I thought I might struggle to waffle on for this long, but let's have a look at what we've got. Main and co-main predictions and method of victory. Well, we just went through it there. I think Lerone Murphy will get the decision, and I think Khamzat will get the submission. We've got quite a few here. Let me see. Quite a few about Brett, so we'll save them for last. Thoughts on the UFC stopping the pay-per-view in USA with a new TV deal? Will the fighters lose money? UFC are making $7 billion. Well, look, it's one of them. It's great for the fans. I kind of see why they're doing it. I think by taking away the pay-per-view option, it allows you to build your big stars more, because there's easier access to them. Like in the UK, we got a good gig. You know, we pay our £30 a month on BT or whatever it is on TNT, and that's sorted for the year. In America, you want to buy a pay-per-view a month is $80, so it does add up, and I think it puts a lot of guys off. I think it also though means that they don't no longer need a pay-per-view star because people can watch it anyway. So it's I don't know. I don't really know what to think of it. I feel like the fighters are getting shafted a bit because I don't know how it's going to work in terms of, you know, look at your pay-per-view stars. If McGregor comes back, what happens there? Does he get a set fee? Like, does he get a percentage of the viewership like they did with Jake Paul on Netflix? Because a guy like him who sells that many tickets and brings that many eyes, even guys like Masvidal, even on the weekend, Khamzat, those type of guys, Islam, are they going to get done out of money by this pay-per-view deal going away? Probably. You'd like to think if the UFC are pocketing $7 billion, that they'll be able to pay the fighters a lot more now that the fighter pay will come up, but you just never know. You never know till you know, till they start releasing purses and stuff like that. I think it does eliminate the fact that you need a pay-per-view star. But what I'm hoping is this. What I'm hoping it does mean is that we now go back to having more stacked fight cards, like we do on the weekend. There's no knock on the card on the weekend at all. It's absolutely stacked from top to bottom, like it used to be. You know, back in the day, you'd have a UFC pay-per-view, the entire main card would be filled with stars, like it is this weekend. The prelims would have 1 or 2 stars on it as well. So I'm hoping it means we go back to that. You know, I'm kind of a bit bored of this. Good main event, good co-main event, and the rest of the card is kind of, take it or leave it. So I'm hoping it means that. But you just don't know. I hope that the pay-per-view guys have got something in their contract where they get they get some sort of deal. I don't know whether they do that via viewers or what. There must be something in place because, you know, you think of big sellers like, try to think of an example then. Let's just use Topuria, for example. If he's having $2 million purse, he's probably double or tripling now with pay-per-view, I would say. Is that going to happen now? Are they just going to pay him more for his set fee? We don't know. But it's something that needs to be considered definitely when negotiating. Now, fighters need to do a better job, I think, of negotiating their contract, knowing that there's no chance now of pay-per-view points. But we'll see. You know, it's early days. We don't know too many details about the deal. I think it starts in 2026. That's about all they know. But $7 billion is a lot. When you think they sold the UFC, what was it, 10 years ago for $4 billion, and now, you know, the owners still got it. They just selling the rights for $7 billion. That's a lot of money. So we'll see, guys. We'll see on that one. Did you know Brett had that dance in his locker? I did. I've seen him do it in the gym before. I've seen him do it in other fights. I didn't expect him to do it, but I didn't expect him to do that submission either. Said to him after the fight, I said there was a lot of ways I expect you to win. That wasn't one of them. There's a lot of ways I expect him to celebrate. Doing the spinneroonie into the whatever that was after the fight and jumping on the cage and screaming Vamos 45 times. I didn't expect that either. But when you pull off a sub like that, you do whatever the fuck you want. Who am I to tell him? Yeah, great win, great celebration. Has Brett practiced that sub much during training camp? I wouldn't say he practices it. I've seen him pull it off in the gym. I've seen him, obviously, you know, it's no secret that he's got a mental good top game. I've seen him use it to flatten guys out and regain their back. I've seen him pull the sub off in the gym. I've seen him use it multiple times, but you know, I didn't see him using it in that fight. I thought he would take the guy down and grind him, to be honest. But when he reached for the leg, like I said at the beginning of the podcast, I thought he was just going to use it to control position. And the next thing you know, the guy's tapping. It's a shame it didn't happen in the UFC. He had a nice 50 grand. But we were saying after the fight, you know, he's probably got the most notable submission in Welsh MMA with the calf slicer against Joe Soto back, what would it have been, 6, 7, maybe 8 years ago in the UFC. And then just when you think it can't be topped, he pulls that off. So that sums him up. You know, that's why we call him the best in Wales, because you know he's still doing that stuff 8 years after doing the calf slicer, which is absolutely crazy. Atmosphere at WoW FC looked wild. How did it compare to the Cage Warriors type of show? Yeah, it was crazy. Great venue, but the crowd were awesome as well. They were all... It was full from the first fight and it was full on the last fight. It was no like the UK show you see like people are selling 100 tickets, they'll fight and their mates will leave. You didn't have that at all. I mean, it was full all the way through. They were engaged in the fights. They were very respectful of the fighters as well. Like Scotty fought a Peruvian guy, but he trained in Spain. They were very respectful of both guys, all fight week and at the show. But the atmosphere was brilliant. But like a lot of that has got to be down to that venue. It was absolutely insane. One of the best venues I've ever seen. You won't see many like that. But it was a great atmosphere. And again, look, it's a great platform. It's on UFC Fight Pass. Topuria is the face of it, which is always going to bring eyes, which is why it's probably so popular in Spain. And they do treat the fighters really well. They pay well. They treat the fighters great. You know, Scotty and Brett were treated like royalty all week. Which I'm not saying other shows don't treat you like that, but just little things, you know, extra leg room on the flight. The guys, at the hotel, they're there on hand. They can't do enough for you. You text them, you need something, bang, it's done. Same on fight night. You need extra ice, you need this, you need that. They'll do it for you. So it's real good promotion. Obviously, we've seen these type of promotions come and go before because perhaps they put a little bit too much money in early, but I don't feel like that's going to happen with these guys. I feel like they're established. They're selling tickets, which, you know, in Marbella is an expensive place. And I was chatting to one of the promoters when we took the guys to see the venue in the day. I won't go into the prices because it's confidential and stuff. But the ticket prices weren't cheap, you know, especially the floor level stuff. And it sold out. You know, the event was sold out. So that tells you all you need to know about his popularity and his following in Spain. And there were no massive Spanish names on it. They just sold it off the back of it being wow, which is a good sign. So I hope they're about for a long, long time. I think they will be. And I very much look forward to going out there again at the end of the year. But that's about it, guys, really. We had a good weekend, you know. Good weekend coming up with fights. Hopefully we can get on next week and go over the results. Would be nice. Not too much. I don't know if we're going to guess in the pipeline just yet. I might leave that to my old man. I do want to try and get Brett on to talk about his win. So hopefully when he's done resting up, we can get him on. And other than that, we haven't got much. We've got a busy few weeks for fights. We've got guys fighting in August. We've got guys fighting in September. We've got guys fighting in October. Oban Elliott has just had a fight booked. I don't think I can say where or when yet, but that's within that realm of time-wise. Nice away day as well. All that will be announced very soon, I'm sure. So we get cracking with that, game planning and watching footage for that fight soon. And obviously we're hoping Brett and Scotty can get something booked before the end of the year. Levi is looking to fight too, and so is 15, 20 amateurs. So we got a lot going on. It's been a great year. We got a busier end of the year. Again, if you want to catch the breakdown, the Fight Week show with me, Nick Peet and Adam Cattrell, that's available on the TNT. I will tell you the exact name now because it's a new channel. But that is available. It'll come out today. Well, it won't be today by the time this is out. But yeah, I enjoyed that. Great guys, Nick and Adam. TNT Fight Sports, guys. That's the name of the YouTube channel. Please follow them, subscribe to them, like, and we will hopefully be on there again. You know, I covered for Mike Bisman this time, so obviously he's the main man. Never gonna push him out of his role, but if he's ever having a day off again, I'll be more than happy to jump in. Check that out. I'll put a link in the description. If you haven't already seen Brett's finish on the weekend, go and watch it. Absolutely insane. Really proud of him to getting that done. And yeah, these are the picks for the fights. Hopefully I'm right. 5 out of 5. Probably won't be. If I was, I'd be a rich man from betting, but I'm not. So thank you for watching, guys. As always, like, share, subscribe, and fingers crossed we will be back soon with a guest, and enjoy the fights this weekend.